Good afternoon. I'd like to thank you all for coming out to help us in the celebration of life of Sandy, or better known as Mims, or as the boys like to call her, Bubby. Sandy and I had a good relationship. She kept me pretty well centered on her 9 o'clock in the morning phone calls that were just about every day. She helped me raise the boys, and it's just, I'm sorry. We just had a good time. I mean, her and I had good times. Like I said, she centered me a lot through my 19 years of troubles and all that. I'd like to start the day with a scripture. Proverbs 31:31. I was looking up stuff and I thought this was perfect. These good deeds of hers shall be her honor, or bring her honor and recognition from people of importance, literally. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. Can we have a prayer, please? Dear Lord, thank you for having everybody come here today to help us honor Sandy. It's been a good time. She's back up there with Leonard and Zeke, her favorite dog. But we just hope that she's a pillar in your community like she was down here. Give us thanks. Amen. Sorry. Like I said earlier, we had a lot of conversations. Some of them good, some of them bad. Some of them might have been about Sherry. Some of them might have been about Blake and Chase. But it was nice to have somebody to converse with and listen and help me solve a lot of the problems that were going on. And I kept her centered, I think, at some points towards the end when she wouldn't listen to Sherry anymore. But she's a woman that I look up to, and give her credit for a lot of the things she did in life. She was very active in our community. But there's probably more I could go on to. I have a problem of Gab, so I think I've got one more here, if I can find it. Romans 8:38-37, or 39. For I am persuaded that neither death nor life, nor angels or principalities, not powers, not things present, nor things to come, not height, not depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Jesus Christ our Lord. I'm going to have Sherry come up and talk about her mom and everything that she's about.
We all know I can't see very well, so I got to get the reading glasses out. I'm Sherry Stanley. I am Sandy's daughter. I want to thank you all for coming. My mother did really not want much of a service or anything. She kind of wanted to go quietly. But we heard from many that said we need to celebrate. So that's what we're here for. We appreciate. We laughed that I said it would be 5 of us here, and so I'm really sorry, Stacy, there's more than 5. But we do appreciate that you did come. She just was very quiet and personal, but really wanted to celebrate. And so, instead of a formal funeral or whatever, we're going this way. People ask why when she died the week before Christmas. We were at the Mayo Clinic, and so we weren't available. And it was so cold here in Nebraska that she would not have wanted people to come to a celebration of life in the snow and in the cold. So when we set this, little did I realize it was going to be 100 degrees and there would be a heat warning. So I am bad for planning events, even though that's my job. But I appreciate you coming out in the heat, which is probably better than the snow and the cold and such. So, my mom always said, I look identical to her. So this is what my mom looked at 57, but she didn't have the gray hair. So, but also I had the gift of gab. So, sorry, you're gonna have to hear the stories today of things. My mom has sabotaged my computer also. So every time I saved, it didn't always save. So obviously it was probably what she did not want me to say, or the pictures, the bathing suit picture that I thought at this point I can show the bathing suit picture from 1958. It's gone off my computer. So guess what? She's sabotaged me on some of these things, but we do appreciate you coming and supporting our family during this time, celebrating her life as a very positive thing, and listening to to share some of the memories that we have. And after I get done, we'll open it up. We have some family members that weren't able to travel and sent some memories too. And most of these are appropriate, but we'll let you go. So my mom was born in the spring of 1940. It was actually just 3 days after the Nazi invasion of the lower countries during World War II. And Winston Churchill just became Prime Minister of Great Britain. She arrived home to the family home in Havelock at 71st and Morrill to her 3 older sisters, Marilyn, Dolores, and Arlene, in the house that their grandfather had built. Her mother said her favorite saying as a child was, "I do it myself." And that's how she lived her life, is I do it myself. My mother was very independent. Even though she was married, had me, she was a very independent woman and wanted it. At the end, she was like, well, I buy my own houses, I buy my own cars, I can do it. I remember when she got her first credit card, JCPenney credit card. And that was a big deal at that time in the 70s for a woman to have a credit card. She also worked full-time, during this time. She also mentioned, and when I spent about the last year living with her full-time, we talked about random stuff all the time. But she talked about the house in Havelock, and Jean and Murdy and you guys would remember these things, that everybody, the door was always open. People lived there, people came to visit, the door was open. It didn't matter who you were, but people were there. You were all family in one way or another, maybe not blood relatives, but that was what she wanted to constitute for everyone, that everyone was family and should be invited in. She attended Havelock Elementary School and then Northeast High School. And when she was in high school, she was active in yearbook, synchronized swimming, choir, things that I never picked up, Job's Daughters. And she was very proud to be Northeast grad. She always said, once a rocket, always a rocket. And last summer, I got to go to their 66th class reunion. So me and all the other 80-some-year-olds hung out for the evening at Hillcrest for 2 evenings and had a blast. I mean, we had a good time. But she was very proud of being Northeast alum and, went and was on that reunion committee for years and years, and I swear, I don't think they had a reunion half the time. They just went to Hillcrest for drinks and dinner, and they just hung out. So while she was at Northeast, she was introduced to my dad, Leonard Clodhammer from Waverly, by other Northeast people. And so after she graduated from Northeast, she went on to Nebraska Wesleyan, majored in elementary education, and became a Delta Zeta sorority. I found when I was going through pictures, she still had her pledge book from 1957. And so it meant so much that she had kept it in this metal box and such. But those two friends, and you can see her pledge class picture will flip through here, but also those people were her friends for life. Same with the Northeast people. Her friends, she went to school with the same person from kindergarten all the way through high school, and all the way till they passed, they were still friends. And so, which is just an awesome thing that, nowadays your friends are such a short term. Her friends were long term, and we can see it here that her friends were long term from elementary school all the way, through college. Let's see. So, my parents married in 1961. Last week they would have celebrated their 63rd anniversary. So, some of the things that they did, which kind of amazed me, is they enjoyed going dancing at the Playmore, which I never knew my parents danced. This is what she told me. I am just telling you, repeating the story. But yeah, they told me about, going to the Playmore with friends and family. They would hang out with my aunt and uncles. They would go sledding down the street of Lake Street, right down here. Barb was part of this, probably, maybe. They sledded down our street, and that was the thing. It wasn't us kids, it was the adults that participated in these things. They were at the races, and the stories that she could tell me about that. They went, sprint car racing across the country, and, enjoyed that with their friends. And these are lifetime friends from the 60s that we're still friends with today. They built their house on Lake Street right up here. They remodeled their house on Southampton Street together. So they traveled, they did things together. And we always said we did the odd things that most normal families, didn't do, we did. But that's what made us unique. After graduation from Wesleyan, my mom started teaching at Memorial Elementary School. She spent 37 years. Most of the time as a 5th grade teacher and math and science. She loved Memorial. That was her thing. She taught thousands of students and multi-generations of students. She would come home and say, oh, I had a little so-and-so. His parents I taught 20 years ago. She loved that. She loved having those kids as part of her life. And those kids would show up at our doorstep and visit her, during the summer and other times and such. So she loved education, she loved the students, and she spent her time trying to better students, throughout their time. Let's see. In 1967, I arrived, the best part of her entire life. I'm not sure she would always agree to that, but being an only child, I went everywhere my parents went, I went. And everywhere I went, my parents went. My parents were the ones, Carol knows, my parents went to every basketball game I participated in and traveled everywhere. I'm not sure if they really enjoyed watching the games as much or socializing with the other groups of parents through the times, but I was their one and only, so that way I was here, I was the one and such, which was great for me because I got to go places that I never would have gone any other time and such. In 4th grade, I wanted a guinea pig. If anybody remembers my guinea pig, Pinky, my mom went and got Pinky the guinea pig. Pinky didn't want to leave the pet store. He bit my mom. My mom still brought that stupid guinea pig home, and it lived with us for 8 years. But it was because she had committed to me that I was going to get Pinky the guinea pig and such. So, it's just one of those things we, did. Let's see. Oh, another thing was my mom didn't always do the traditional thing. When we would have events that we needed to go to, my mom would give me the Pyrex dish, send me to Valentino's with $20, and have Valentino's put lasagna in her Pyrex dish, and I would go on to the school event with my homemade lasagna. People thought my mom was the best cook. Guess what? My mom didn't really cook that much. It wasn't her thing. It was Valentino's, I will commit, but so if you need, lasagna, just take your own pan. Everybody thinks it's your thing. So in 1997, my dad passed away in October. The month after that, Lincoln Public Schools came out with early buyout, the 83 rule or something. She qualified because she was old enough and had enough years of service with Lincoln Public Schools. They would pay her not to teach. She grabbed that opportunity right away. She didn't know what she was going to do during that time, but she grabbed it because she saw with my dad's passing, it was a new life. She could go do what she wanted and such. So her other thing was, somebody gave her the opportunity to teach an LPS. She was giving a new teacher that opportunity to come in and fresh blood. So she thought it was the best thing in the world to be retired. She loved it. She did the one thing that she swore she would never, ever do was substitute teaching. She went back and spent 10 years as a substitute teacher and wrote her own. She only went back to Morley and Pirtle, but she could write her own ticket. She enjoyed it. She wanted still to be with those kids, but she didn't want the daily commitment of doing grades and things like that. During her retirement, she also was in book club teammates. She played mahjong, PEO, going to the lead in the playhouse she loved. She loved taking Ollie classes. She learned to play the piano when she was 60 because her family couldn't afford to have a piano and piano lessons. And so she went out, bought a little electric piano, and took classes to learn how to play the piano. She tested adult learners for that English was their second language. She was on foster care review, had CASA students that were CASA court-appointed advocates that she went and helped these youth get through the legal system of foster care or whatever. The best story was when she did that, she told my boys, and they were younger, that she was going to Geneva to the girls' home or going to jail. Well, they didn't get the whole thing. She had a youth that was in the Geneva home, and all my kids heard was grandma was going to jail. And so they went out and told the neighbor kids that their grandma was at jail today. We had to verify to the neighbors that what jail was and why my mom went to jail. We always laughed that my mom did have a better social life than Scott and I did because she did, that was the facts. And so she also started traveling. Oh, sorry, gotta go back. One of her other hobbies was hanging in the driveway with the neighbors. Didn't matter which house it was, now we have the infamous lawn chairs that gets passed each year. Karen has inherited the infamous lawn chairs for the house now. She liked hanging with the neighbors. Every house we lived in, we always had a family or a community with the other neighbors in the neighborhood. So, which was a great thing for us kids too, but she loved that. Traveling became her passion. She traveled some domestically when my dad was alive, But when she became retired and she did some testing, she would take that money and travel. Her accountant thought it was awful that she was actually doing this testing because it screwed up her taxes. She probably owed the IRS more money, but she loved testing these people. But she also had the passion of traveling, and she traveled a lot. She and Marilyn's somewhere here. There's Marilyn. She and Marilyn and Roz, Marilyn's sister, went all over Europe. And John went sometimes too. But it was usually the three ladies that went international. They went to Ireland, they went to Greece and Malta and Egypt, and she always wanted to go back to Egypt, but she knew that the world had changed so significantly at that time that it probably wasn't the safest for her to go. But she loved traveling. That was her thing, so she would save her pennies to go travel the world. Then she also traveled here in the U.S. with her friends and such. But her favorite place to visit was California. She liked going to the beach. Not that she laid on the beach. She just watched the beach. She told stories of going on the train to California when she was a kid. She and her sister Arlene and her parents, they would go spend Christmas in California and visit the aunt and uncles. And she always said when she won the lottery, she was going to get a house in the Coronado Keys, and everybody could come visit her. She was not going to go visit everybody else. She was going to do it, and everybody could come visit her in the Coronado Keys. Unfortunately, we did not win the lottery, so guess what? We're here in Nebraska still, so, you know. During COVID was very hard for her. The isolation, the things being closed down, and it really was a tough thing for her. But I did learn later that a friend or two, she and a couple of friends, had started staking out restaurants in Lincoln of where they felt it was safe. They could sit in the corner and eat dinner and go out. Did you know that, Julie? It was your mother. Yeah. Yeah, Ruth. Yeah. So she loved it, just to be able to go out and eat dinner during that COVID time, because it was just so hard for them. But yeah, they're going out and doing that. Bubby was a name that she chose for herself. Thank you, Jan's mother-in-law, because my mom thought it was the cool name. And Bubby is Jewish for grandmother, is that correct, Jan? And that's what my mom wanted to be called when our grandkids were here. Sorry, this is the hard part. So she chose to be Bubby. That was her given name. Everybody, my kids' friends go, "Who's Bubby?" That's our grandma. So her grandkids were the joy of her life. And she was the one that took them on the first airplane trip and the first roller coaster rides at Disney, going to the beach with the family. She was the one that potty trained my boys. She took them bowling. Everything was an activity or education with my kids. My kids were talking about, remember when Bubby took the cat for a ride in the car? Yeah. Our cat has been scarred for life because my boys convinced her that the cat wanted to go for a ride in the car. So my mom complies with them, puts the cat in a paper box, and they stroll Wedgwood in. Obviously, the cat did not enjoy it, but my kids and she still talk about that taking Sadie the cat for a ride. So, it's just one of those things. She wanted to make memories with the kids, and so she went to their sporting events, even though some of the things she didn't even understand why the games or sports were like that. We also laughed that Scott and I bought a house here in Lincoln, and Scott was put on the heart transplant list the next month. And so my mom lived in our house for the first 6 months. We bought a brand new king-size bed. My mom slept in our bed for the first 6 months. She broke our bed in. You know, she did all those things. She took our children everywhere. One of her last wishes a couple years ago was that she wanted us to all spend the night at her house on Christmas Eve. We all spent the night, and that was kind of, it's now called gramping, where grandkids go stay with their grandparents. We did it a couple of years ago. She was totally thrilled that after our annual cocktail party that happens at 7200 Sherrill Drive, after 40 plus years, we have had a cocktail party my mom started on Christmas Eve when we were freshmen in college. And we have done that every year but 1 year over the years. And so she just loved having people in the house and having that excitement and such. The one thing she made me do 2 promises before she left. One was, she said I could travel around the world on this cruise that was 173 days, and I probably never will, but we used to read travel guides and travel books and stuff, and she said, you just take my money and go on that 173-day cruise. And I'm thinking, wow, I've never been out, left my house for 173 minutes, let alone 173 days. Not sure that's gonna happen, but I have permission to go around the world. The other thing she said was, take care of your family. And that's always how she would end her things, take care of your family. And that was kind of her motto, is family doesn't mean it's you're a blood relative. It could be a kid from school. It could be the neighbor lady, whatever. That her whole thing was, you need to take care of your family in whatever way and whatever need that they have. Take care of your family. And so I did promise her that I would take care of the family and such. So, you know, so we appreciate you all coming here and sharing here in this non-traditional service. But this is kind of the things that she would like, you know, would like to do and such. But I will open it up if anybody has anything to share, except my cousin Sid is out of the country this week, and I told her not to come back, just to fly home from California or Vancouver, where they're at. But Sid is the family member who is the writer of our family. All the rest of us weren't blessed with her writing skills, but she is my Aunt Dee's daughter. And my Aunt Dee died 4 weeks before my mom did. So my mom never knew Dee left, but one of the last things my mom, the audible thing that my mom could share with the nurses was she was going home to have Christmas with my grandmother. My mom didn't like Christmas. It wasn't a big thing, but she knew she was going home. And so, so my cousin Sid has been doing a lot of writing, but she wanted me to share something, share this with you. And this is where, as for what I say about your mom, first of all, I adore her. She was my role model growing up, and I'm sure part of the reason I became a teacher, a career I loved for nearly 4 decades, was because of her influence. I remember as a kid in Lincoln always looking up to her and enjoying any time we went to her house. Then we moved away, and I had many fond memories of all the times she traveled to attend family events out here, California, and in Ohio. I was so grateful to get to spend time with her as an adult. She always was so much fun. It cracks me up to remember her and her mom, so it's Dee and Sandy, playing beer pong at my cousin Casey and Susie's house. If you know these two, it doesn't surprise me. I was not here, so I did not influence her. I remember our fun visit with her and your family when we were back. Our kids were all there. when we were back in Nebraska for the reunion, and Hannah, my cousin Sid's daughter, and I loved sharing our memories visiting on her drive through Nebraska and other times. I will always cherish the memories from the last time I saw her when the U2 came out for Mom's 89th birthday, right before the lockdown. Such a special time, and always with Sandy, we had a great time. We lived miles away. I always felt close to my Aunt Sandy. I miss her. I think of her very often. I trust that she and Mom and whoever they are having a good time, and hopefully will not get in too much trouble, and we're all reunited with each other and the loved ones before. Sorry I can't be there in person. I'll be there in thoughts and spirits. So I took my mom to see my aunt because we thought my aunt, it was, 89, we better go visit her. And we got home and COVID hit and everything was locked down that week. So it was one of those just good time events and stuff. So I will open this up if anybody wants to share anything. No pressure, because this is always the creepy thing of an event like this. But if anybody wants to share, please do. Okay, this is my cousin Linda. I could tell you many stories about her, but I'll wait till her funeral. Stories that her kids will never know about.
So Sherry shared that her mom and my Uncle Leonard got married in '61. And I wish I could see some pictures because I remember that I was a flower girl. I looked much more adorable when I was 5 than I do now. But all I remember is Sandy had this beautiful dress, and I thought, she's the most beautiful woman I ever saw. I thought she was a princess, and I thought, how did Uncle Leonard get to marry a princess? But, that beauty wasn't just on the surface. She had a heart of gold. I also became a Delta Zeta, and that's probably because of Sandy. And then I also went into education because I saw how happy she was in that career, and I was as well. So, Sherry, thank you for this celebration, and I loved your mom very much.
Okay, Colleen, you got her up for this. This is Colleen. She'll introduce herself. But when my mom would get mad at me in the last few months when I was living, she would threaten to call Colleen the good daughter. This is Colleen. So I called Colleen and go, guess what? Your problem, not mine. But that was our joke that Colleen was the good daughter.
I was the, adopted daughter sister that you never had.
Yeah.
So my name's Colleen Nielsen. When I think of Sandy, I think of, a woman who lived a life of service to the children that she taught, to those folks that she had taught English as a second language, and to her family and whatnot. I first met Sherry and the family, 3rd grade, I think we decided, right here in Aldersgate. So we grew up in Sunday school, and yes, Sherry said quit kids choir, but we did not catch the music bug. When she asked me to sing a song, I said, ooh, no, not today. Anyway, you all would be out the door. So Sherry and I over the years became really good friends, and some of these themes you've kind of heard, but one of the pictures scrolling through here is kind of a hoot. Sherry and I went to Wesleyan. We lived together as freshmen. And, our dads, back in the day, would build loft beds, and this wasn't when you had the kid or the beds could go up. We hauled 2x4s up 3 floors of stairs in the heat and all this stuff. So we lived in a co-ed dorm. One of the activities that our friends decided we should do, the whole dorm actually, we were going to have a wedding. We were going to have the nerds marry the preppies. So it depended on which side of the dorm you lived on, whether you were a nerd or preppy. So we're all gathering for this wedding, and all of a sudden we see these two older ladies walk in. They have this disheveled coats and mismatched socks, and we're all sitting there going, who are these old women coming to this wedding? Well, they were probably younger than Sherry and I at the time. We look, they were our mothers. So Sandy and Elva dressed up, and you'll see a picture here, and they sat through the wedding, and we were just like, we have had laughs and laughs and laughs over that over the years. But I thought, Sandy, this quiet, soft-spoken woman who, yes, wanted all of her friends when we would, she was kind of the drop-off point for me at some point, but I knew I needed to make at least 15 to 20 minute time because she would always invite me in and we would sit down and talk about the family. We did spend Christmas Eve together over the years, every year except 2 that I can remember. So Sandy, one of the last conversations I had with her at the home was that she was just, she thought she had missed Christmas Eve. And I said, Sandy, you haven't missed Christmas Eve yet. It's not for a few days yet. And she said, oh, okay. She was just relieved. And God rest her soul, we still had Christmas Eve at her house on 7200 North Shore Drive. So anyway, thank you. I'm glad I met most of you earlier, but we celebrate the life of Sandy quietly.
Does anybody else want to share anything? No pressure. Seriously. But, that's Scott wants to talk to you. You don't want Scott out of the house very often, guys, sorry.
Didn't live out of Fillmore County, really. I was just thinking about that this morning when we were talking about things we did, the 4 of us, as I should say, Sandy and the boys and I. I remember coming home one day when we bought our house in Wedgwood. We'd found out that there had been termite damage and we were getting the house redone. I came home one day after getting a blood work or something, and here's Sandy and the boys out in the driveway, of course, and Blake's in his Tiny Todd's car, and they have Zeke, the wonder dog, as we like to call him, his chain hooked up to the car. And all I remember is I sat down in my chair and I said to the boys, you know, you better get him unhooked, because if there's a dog that comes up the street, you guys are in trouble. Well, sure enough, neighbors were walking their dog and they came by. The next thing I know, both Sandy and I are looking at each other and thinking, oh crap, we're in trouble. Getting up, and all I remember is that stupid car and Blake and Zeke going across the street at a good clip, and we're thinking, oh, he's made it in the neighbor's driveway. Nope, they hit the curb. I don't know how far did Zeke drag you, Blake? About 10 or 15 feet before we got him taken care of, but the boys got cussed out pretty good by, I think, both of us on that one. But it was just stuff like that the 4 of us would do. And, you know, like I said, I was very blessed, you know. Not only did she raise the boys, but I think she raised me too. You know, through all thick and thin. But no, that's about all I gotta say. She was a wonderful woman. I'm glad she was in my life. Anybody else? Well, I think we should close, and we'll go across the hall. I'm going to explain what we're having, okay? Which I'm upset that I can't partake in. Sandy loves sugar. So we're having sugar and cookies, oatmeal chocolate chip, and cranberry and white chocolate cookies that Sherry made. So we can go across and have sugar cookies
thank you for coming.
Thank you for everybody. It ended up being more than 5 of us. Well, it would have been 6, including Pauline.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for being a part of my mom's life. Thank you for supporting her in the last few years. And thanks for remembering her. She had a great life, and she had a wonderful family and friends, and we appreciate it all. So, thank you. So,